Good evening, afternoon or morning. Movie Cat is at the microphone and today I will tell you about the black comedy, The Banshees of Inisherin.
I just don't like you no more. You liked me yesterday.
Spring 1923, Irish Civil War. On the Irish island of Inisherin, as usual, after dinner, Patrick goes to his only and best friend Colm to invite him to the pub. But the friend does not open to him and does not even answer, but simply sits with his back to the window and smokes. Patrick shrugs and leaves, expecting his friend to come to the pub later. Patrick returns home and tells his sister Siobhan about Colm's strange behavior. She assumes maybe they had a fight. If not, then he's probably asleep. No, it's impossible to smoke and sleep at the same time, says Patrick and goes to the pub. The bartender is very surprised how Patrick suddenly came alone, without Colm, as he always did. Did they had a fight by chance? Patrick is no longer so sure that he and his friend did not have a fight, and after a sip of beer, he goes back to Colm to find out exactly what the problem is. On the way, he is not greeted by an impolite policeman named Peter. Patrick arrives at Colm's house. The door is unlocked and he enters. There is no one there, so Patrick looks out the window and sees the owner of the house heading for the pub. Colm has settled in the pub at the bar counter and asks Patrick, who has come, not to sit next to him. When Patrick sits down at the bar counter anyway, Colm goes outside with his beer. Patrick is at a loss. What did he do wrong, and if yesterday he somehow offended a friend while drunk? He is very sorry. Colm says he didn't offend him, he just doesn't like Patrick anymore. Patrick goes home in confusion. On the way, local slacker Dominic brags about what a great stick with a hook he found. In the evening, a local old fortune teller comes to Siobhan to smoke a pipe and chat. Patrick is bored with them, so he goes to the pub. From there he hears the sounds of Irish folk music. The bartender tells Patrick they didn't plan the concert. Colm just came with a violin and decided to play a little. The musician is surrounded by the attention of women. Dominic enters the pub. The bartender tells him to leave his stick with a hook on outside and not to molest women yet. Patrick and Dominic sit down to drink beer in a corner and watch enviously. Patrick is jealous that women have Colm, and Dominic that Colm has women. After the pub closes, Dominic steals moonshine from his father, policeman Peter, at home and invites his new friend to drink it. Patrick, out of desperation, agrees. However, due to the fact Patrick is always asking aloud why Colm does not communicate with him, Dominic is offended and says that in the pub it did not look like Colm was sad about this, rather, he looks like he dropped a heavy load. In the morning, Patrick wakes up and belatedly tears off another sheet from the calendar. March ended yesterday and Patrick breaks into a smile. He finds Colm and lets him know he appreciated the joke, so since today is April 2nd already, he will come for Colm before they go to the pub, as usual at 2 p.m. However, at 2 p.m. on Colm's doorstep, Patrick sees that his friend has already left home and even brought his dog with him, so it turns out that April 1st is irrelevant to the case. When Patrick asks why, Colm plays a small piece of a beautiful tune and says that tomorrow and the day after tomorrow he will write the next parts. This would never have happened if he had continued to waste time on stupid conversations with Patrick. To Patrick's objections, Colm adds that a few days ago he spent 2 hours talking about what things he found in the dung of his little donkey. Patrick is offended because his friend did not listen carefully. It was the dung of a little pony. Sad Patrick leaves the pub and is greeted by Siobhan. Worrying about her brother, she enters the pub and demands an explanation from Colm. After all, nobody can just, without a reason, stop communicating with a friend. Why? Because at least it's not polite. Colm answers, Patrick is boring, and since yesterday there is no more room for boredom in his life. At home at dinner, Patrick asks his sister if people think he's stupid. Siobhan replies that the dumbest in the settlement is Dominic, and by a wide margin, with a margin from whom she does not specify. In the morning, Patrick and Siobhan drive to the church. On the way, they meet a badly beaten Dominic, who explains that his father punished him for a moonshine stealing. He beat with a kettle and everything would be fine if it has no the spout. Dominic asks Patrick to let him sleep one night in their house until his father calms down. Patrick reluctantly agrees. After the preaching at the exit from the church, Patrick talks a little about something with the Holy Father. A few minutes later, the Holy Father, confessing Colm, wonders why does he no longer communicate with Patrick. Colm doesn't think it's a sin, so he doesn't answer. Instead, he finds out the priest asked for a reason for the Padraig's request. Then angry Colm comes to the pub and sets a condition for Padraig. If he does not stop talking to him, send other people to him and bother him in every other way. Each time Colm will take the sheep shears and will cut off one his own fingers on the left hand, the very one with which he clamps the strings, and after Colm will give every finger to Padraig. Over dinner, Dominic wonders why it's so important for Padraig to hang out with a fat, red-haired, pompous old man. And by the way, it can be a good idea to provoke Colm to cut off one of his fingers to see if he was bluffing or not. Siobhan forbids them to do this. In the evening, Padraig feels himself lonely, so talks to his donkey for a bit and then goes to the pub. The donkey goes with him, but of course does not enter inside. Padraig leaves her up in the yard. Colm's dog sits next to her. In the pub, Padraig drinks whiskey and watches Colm having a good time with some barely acquainted music students from the mainland, and then even engaging in dialogue with Pida. Drunk Padraig can't stand this, because it is no reason to communicate with the evil Pida. When good man Padraig is available, Colm explains kindness does not weigh that much because kind people are not remembered for centuries, unlike, for example, brilliant musicians. Siobhan comes to the pub, picks up his brother and asks Colm to refrain from drastic measures because they won't bother him anymore. Colm suddenly says it's a pity because today Padraig has become interesting to him again. In the morning, Siobhan goes to the store for bacon, and the saleswoman, apparently also performing the duties of a postman, gives her a letter. In it, Siobhan is invited to work as a librarian on the mainland. When Inisherin inhabitants say mainland, they mean Ireland. Padraig finds Colm to apologize for yesterday, no matter what he said there. Colm angrily asks why Padraig won't leave him alone after so many requests. Later, Siobhan asks his brother do not let the donkey go into the house, no matter how sad Padraig is. They are about to have dinner when suddenly something softly knocks on the door. Padraig goes outside to look and sees a bloody mark on the door, and then finds a finger downstairs. Colm walks down the path in his unchanging cloak without the index finger on his left hand. Siobhan is horrified when she sees the finger, but is even more scared that Padraig is about to take the finger back to Colm, as if he have not understood the main idea why Colm decided to cut off his fingers. Then Siobhan herself goes to Colm. He is learning to clamp the strings with 4 fingers. When he asked why, Colm replies to Siobhan that he just wanted one boring man to leave the other alone. Siobhan says that all men here on Inisherin are boring. Anyway, the next time Padraig speaks to him, Colm promises not to waste time on trifles, but to cut off all 4 fingers left on his left hand at once. The next day, Padraig sees Colm having a drink with a student musician, talking to him and laughing. Jealous, Padraig later catches up with this student on the road and deceives him, like, there is a telegram from the mainland came to the post office. It says his father was hit by a bread van. Padraig advises the student to hurry so that his father does not die alone. In the evening, Padraig accidentally meets an old fortune teller, who says that before the end of the month, death will come to Inisherin, and perhaps even 2 times. Drinking in the morning, Dominic is surprised that Colm cut off his finger, because then in the pub he was not offended, but rather admired Padraig's audacity. Perhaps this is Colm's tactic, to teach Padraig be more determined and proactive. Then Padraig brags about how he was determined and proactive by sending the student musician from the island. Dominic is disappointed. He considers this meanness and does not want to drink with Padraig anymore. Padraig is not at all ashamed. He decides to be uncompromising further. He kicks in the door to Colm's house. Padraig didn't think through the speech, so he just asks if Colm finished his melody. Yesterday, replies Colm and says that he named it the Banshee of Inisherin. Padraig doesn't see the complete despair in Colm's eyes. He thinks that the dialogue between them has improved and can be continued in the pub. Then Padraig goes ahead to order a beer in advance. Colm left alone. He sighs heavily. His dog tries to carry the sheep shears away in his teeth. Padraig is waiting for Colm in the pub when his sister comes over to say she's leaving to the mainland. Siobhan calls his brother home to discuss everything. At that moment, Colm comes to their house and throws in turn all 4 fingers at the door. Patrick and Siobhan on the road meet returning Colm having no fingers on his hand and pass by in complete shock. At home, Siobhan takes the suitcase, hugs her brother goodbye and leaves. Now Patrick has no one left besides the donkey. Siobhan gets into the boat and her brother waves goodbye to her from the cliff. Returning, Patrick finds 3 fingers on the ground, and behind the house is his beloved donkey dead, because she choked on with the 4th finger. In the evening, Patrick buries the donkey and goes angry to Colm's house. On the way, the old fortune teller asks him not to kill Colm's dog. At Colm's house, Patrick only finds the dog, which he pets. In the pub, meanwhile, students are playing folk music, and a pale Colm is waving his violin to the beat. Patrick enters and tells Colm that because of his thick fingers his donkey died, and now, tomorrow on Sunday, God's Day, at 2 p.m. he will come and set fire to Colm's house for this. Suddenly, Peter enters and asks Patrick where his son is, because Dominic again did not spend the night at home. In the morning, Patrick receives a letter from Siobhan. She settled on the mainland and asks him to move too, because the civil war is almost over, which means there will be work available. Patrick can ask Dominic to look after the donkey and animals. Nothing awaits Patrick on Inisherin but longing and the slow coming of death. Patrick packs firewood and kerosene into a cart and drives to Colm's house. The dog is sitting outside. Patrick covers the house with firewood and sets it on fire. Through the window, he sees Colm sitting and smoking placidly. In the evening, Patrick rides back to Siobhan. He refuses to come because his life is here on Inisherin. Also, he will not be able to ask Dominic for anything. At this moment, Peter goes to arrest Patrick for arson. But an old fortune teller calls out to the policeman and pulls the body of his son Dominic out of the lake with a stick. Probably he slipped and fell down. In the morning, Patrick goes to see the result of the fire. The dog suddenly sees his master on the shore and runs to him. Colm asks if his house burned down, does that mean they're even? Patrick replies they would have even if Colm had stayed in the house. Colm thanks Patrick for looking after the dog. Anytime, replies Patrick. Thank you for watching. Press hearts, write any comment to promote the channel. And if you did not understand what this film is about, me too, subscribe in solidarity.